the caffeine. I mean, I like it. It's nice. Like this green tea is about the extent of.
I love green tea.
Yeah, you gotta have some green tea in your life. Maybe like I know it doesn't always like taste the greatest. There's things you can do, healthy things that can make it taste a little bit better, but you gotta have
honey and ginseng.
Gotta have some in your life. You know what? Honey is good, but I can like never get it to like really, I don't know, sweeten up the deal, so to speak. Like it always sinks to the bottom. It always sinks to the bottom. It's like organic. I couldn't even tell you the brand right now.
So it's not processed. It's natural honey.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
That A might be the problem with it. B, you might have to let it sit in the water first, like let it seep hot, and then stir it before you put the tea in. Because I don't have, well, let me not lie. They don't make it for me. My wife will make it for me.
Okay, I got you.
She brings it to me. And I've never, when I try to make it myself, I have that issue where it glopes up on the bottom of the cup. And so like the last couple of sips are very, very different than the first couple of sips that you had.
Yeah, exactly. Dude.
So it's like, yeah. When she does it for me, I have no issue. I'll just ask her what she does. But she mentioned to me before that she lets the tea and the water and the honey sit together first. Because the hotness of the hot water breaks up the molecular structure, if you want to be scientific about it, right? I don't fucking know.
I did start our stream talking about teas and caffeine. I thought that would be interesting, kind of like a little icebreaker to this is The Divide, episode 7. The majority of this is going to be just kind of like speculation and any maybe rumors that you've heard and I've heard for E3. But I did want to talk about, just before we get into that, yesterday, something that was, disgusting is the wrong word because I'm sure they have their reasons, but Square Enix is trying to sell IO Interactive. And that is kind of disappointing considering the Hitman game that they just released was loved by diehard Hitman fans. Some people have even said it's the best Hitman game ever released. They finally got Hitman back to being Hitman and then some. And now they're trying to get rid of this developer. They want to cut ties with them. I mean, I know the game didn't sell extremely well anyway, and that happens a lot. Like, really good games sometimes don't sell, and that's unfortunate. I know we like to think that, hey, if it's a good game, word of mouth will help, and I'm sure word of mouth helped a little bit with that last Hitman game. I do have it. I want to get more into it. I hear it's just an excellent stealth game, and I am big on stealth, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, you can look at the sales, and I get it from like a business standpoint. It makes sense to cut ties with them, but like maybe look at the fan reception as well and see that, you know, they did really well with this game. Like it was a damn good game. Yeah, maybe Absolution was a misstep. I enjoyed Absolution. I can see why diehard Hitman fans didn't like it. That's how they felt about Absolution is how I felt about shit like Double Agent or like what was the one before Blacklist?
Blood Money. You said
Splinter Cell. Yeah, what was the one before Blacklist? Conviction. Yeah, like they're good games in their own right, but they're not good Splinter Cell games. So that was my issue with that, and I get it from a business standpoint. I get it, but like, what's your take? Like, why do you think that this is happening? Just too many, like Hitman's just not really a seller anymore, and that's kind of what IO Interactive was doing for the most part. Like, I
think that Squinix has for a while now been setting up the message that they only want to be behind IPs that are selling, right? So, because look, if you go back to, I believe, 2013, when they complained about Tomb Raider only selling 6 million copies, and then that was Squinix, right? Am I right about that? Yeah, okay. And they didn't break even, right? And so they're always like disappointed with their sales numbers recently. And they shot themselves in the foot with this game. No matter how good it was, people didn't buy it. And I think one of the big reasons people didn't buy it is because of the episodic nature in which they chose to release the game.
And now, you think that was Square Enix's call, not IO Interactive?
I don't think the publisher wanted to do it that way. I really don't. I mean, no, I'm sorry. The developer wanted to do it that way. I think Square Enix didn't want to put this is all my speculation, okay? I haven't gotten this from anywhere, and I'm just putting that out there for the people that are going to watch this. What I feel is that Square Enix was one of the Japanese developers or one of the developers who thought that gaming was going to die, that everything was going to mobile. And so why the episodic nature of games became the way they were. And they weren't ready to back a full mass-scale AAA production. So they put out this, the way I believe that they wanted, the reason I believe they wanted it this way, so they could have each part somehow fund the next part. You understand?
I got you. Yeah, I got you.
So, and not completely take a wash on everything. Now, at the end of the day, gamers, Hitman is a game that we don't get it piecemeal. And so the episodic thing works for Telltale, and not really so much lately. You even see them speeding up their release of their episodes because people are getting tired of it. Like, I just wait for the whole thing to be done, and if I want it, I'd buy it. Same thing with Hitman. Now, I really believe it's them to blame, and so they shot themselves in the foot. The game, no matter how it was praised for how good it wasn't. I don't think it was going to sell to the Hitman enthusiast, because it's not the way you buy. It's not the way you play Hitman. I don't want to do one chapter and wait 17 weeks for another however long. You know? I'm exaggerating.
I feel you. No, I know.
That's the kind of game that when you get into. You got to have that flow, that you got that rhythm. You know what I mean? You put that game down, you lose the rhythm. You got to pick it up again. And from what I understand, they did well. They presented it well. I never thought it was going to do anything. And so now, is it the devs' fault? No. And hopefully they'll get picked up somewhere. But this, in turn, is the nature of the beast. They didn't make no money off of this, and so now they feel like they need to cut ways with them. We don't know what other stipulations were put in the development of this game, right? If they had to live up to a certain thing, if I had to do this, I had to do that. We're not privy to none of that information, so.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, there may have been like a deal in place where they, Square told IO Interactive, hey, if this game doesn't at least sell this, you're done. You know what I mean? We don't know. They may have had an expectation of a certain amount of quality to live up to, and they didn't accomplish that, no matter, as you said, how much fans ended up liking the game. But it's really unfortunate. Hopefully those guys find a new home and they can all go together, because I do think they are a talented studio, and it's not one of those situations where it's so messed up that these 10 developers go and make their own studio, and these 10 developers go to this other well-known, very talented studio. Hopefully they're able to stay together and find a new home that will provide them the funds to make more awesome games. So don't want to see anybody not be able to put food on their table. That is not what we're doing here. We're not wishing that on anyone. This is not one of those maniac fanboy channels or podcasts where we're F Microsoft, F Sony, F EA, F Ubisoft. That's not what we're doing here. So yeah, E3. Let's discuss. It is right around the corner. I think we're exactly 1 month away, maybe a little bit less. Maybe a little bit less than that. I don't know. I think it starts on the 9th or the 10th or something. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Starting with Microsoft. Do we want to start with Microsoft for the podcast though? I mean, let's just get Nintendo out of the way. What are we really expecting from Nintendo? Some more a good
30-minute puppet show.
A 30-minute puppet show.
That's what they did last year.
I think we're at least going to get. We're going from what Nintendo is going to give us what we expect from Nintendo, and I think that's probably more Splatoon 2 information and gameplay. a good 4 or 5 minute gameplay clip of that Mario Odyssey game, and probably that is like the most anticipated game that they have coming this year. I mean, that game does look really, really good, so hopefully it ends up being good as well. But outside of that, maybe some talk of, I can see there being some talk of several Wii U ports. I don't think they're done doing that, right? So has Smash been confirmed? Is that a thing yet? Like Smash from the Wii U, is that coming over?
I don't know if it's confirmed yet. I saw that Pokemon Stars is getting ready to be confirmed, which is, I believe, the last two, the Sun and the Moon. Was the last two Pokemon? I'm not a big Pokemon dude, so
I'm not either.
Wrong. I don't. Whatever the last two were, I believe it's Sun and Moon. I think Pokemon Stars is going to be like a combined version of that, or they're getting ready to announce a Pokemon Stars. I know that the Mario Odyssey is going to be, I don't know. I have an idea. I've read somewhere that Mario Odyssey is going to be playable on the show floor. They're going to talk to you about Splatoon 2 more, announce some tournament stuff with that. And you only asked me about Smash, and I went off and I ran with it, so I do apologize. But I want to concur or piggyback on there's going to be a bunch of Wii U re-releases. I believe that the good selling or the better selling titles on the Wii U will find their way to the Switch on the virtual store sooner rather than later. There might even be like a package. They're going to, and it's Nintendo, so be prepared to play close to what they were originally worth on the Wii U. And they're just probably going to talk more. They're going to have to talk about their service. I want to know what this service is. How are you going to get me to pay for another subscription service as a Switch owner? Because right now, what's going on with Mario Kart 8 is an abomination of online. You see dudes all over my Twitter feed that they'll link up in a game and then they start talking shit to each other on Twitter because they can't talk in the game. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is 2017, people.
See, that was my thing when they announced it. And even when Sony announced that they were going to charge, like, Sony doesn't have near the abomination of service that Nintendo has. Definitely, I'm not saying that. But like I was saying to myself when Sony announced that, I'm like, yeah, but what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to make this worth it? You know what I mean? Because now what you've done is just you took Plus and turned it into a mandatory online service if you wanted to game online with your friends and family. So like, what else is there? You know what I mean? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you can still chat. You can still get into chats on PlayStation without Plus, right? Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yes,
yeah. So like, that's a big thing for some people.
How much?
Yeah, some people don't even care about multiplayer, so as long as they can chat with their friends, like, they're still good. But yeah, that's especially with Nintendo. Like, you have to ask if this kind of thing is happening right now, and E3 is right around the corner. How the hell are you going to explain to me that this is going to be worth it? $20, $15, $30, whatever it is. What are you doing with the service to suddenly turn it around in 1 month to make it a quality thing and have this be a service that people want to use, want to pay for, want to give you money for? Because you just told me about the Mario Kart thing. I wasn't even aware that stuff like that was happening. I knew that Nintendo definitely had the worst out of the three, but I didn't realize that it was as bad as you're saying now. So I didn't know anything about that.
And this is that right now it's free. They're not charging you for this, so everybody can go online and play. When they announce the service, you will not be able to go online and play. And so they're gonna lie. Obviously, they're charging you for the service. You can't talk now. And the great thing, and I say that in quotes because I'm being facetious or sarcastic, is that they want you to, from what we understand, from the way it was announced and told to us, you have to provide your own smart device in order to chat on the service or to use a myriad of the service's features. And so I hope at E3, because Nintendo is infamous for this, they will not tell you to the last minute and just spring it upon you and make you look like you need to get it. You know what I mean? Because with them, the way they present things, the longer people have a chance to sit down and dissect it, it might just be like, oh, wait, this isn't too great. You know what I mean? But they're not going to give. They don't let the consumer come to that conclusion. They beat you over the head with it as soon as possible and have you dig in your pockets. You know what I mean? And so I just need to know, because let's be real. I'm not on the Switch for nail biting, butt clenching multiplayer action. That's not what I'm on the Switch.
So you're not going to be buying the amazing.
I can't. Nah. Why would I? Like, I just want the Marios and the Zeldas of the world. You know what I mean? That's all I want. I want to pretend like I'm 6 years old, throw a blanket over my head, and play some Nintendo for a little while. Take the blanket off and come back to reality. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want to do. But that's just me. There are people who, unfortunately for them, or maybe fortunately for them, however you want to look at it, right? The Nintendo Switch might be their only console. I would hang myself if I was that person, but that, people make that decision. And so they're going to need this. You know what I mean? Barring little kids. I'm not talking about little kids. I'm only talking about adults, right? And so, they need to understand this. Nintendo has been, and I hate to use this word because it gets thrown around a lot, but they have been extremely anti-consumer with the Switch. And I, being one who bought it, really can't really talk about it like that, right? Because now I'm being a hypocrite.
I mean, we're all hypocrites sometimes, but at least you can admit that, like, one, you're being a hypocrite, and two, that they've been very anti-consumer about the whole thing.
And so, at the end of the day, not to be long-winded on one topic, they need to. We're gonna get the Odyssey, we're gonna get the ARMS tournament, we're gonna get the Splatoon 2. Might talk about a little bit of Fire Emblem, I believe is the name of the title. I want to see what they got in works with Shin Megami Tensei. There's a lot of things that I'm looking to Nintendo for. Dragon Warrior, I want to see what they're going to do with that. If I could possibly get it there, then buy it on the Sony platform, because I have enough titles on the Sony platform. And Microsoft ain't got no games, but that's a cheap shot for no reason. And so, I want them to diversify. I want them to show me. What I would like for them is to show me why I got this machine. What are you going to give me here that I can't get there? Because that's the only reason I got your machine, is to play what I could only play here on the Switch. So I'm hoping that's what they do.
As far as I'm concerned, we're done with Nintendo. I don't think there's too much to say. I still don't have a Switch. I never did get a Wii U, but I still like to think that before the year is over, I will have a Switch. I'm not going to make any promises to you guys or myself, but not too big on Nintendo at the moment. And one of those reasons is because of what we were just talking about with the whole anti-consumer thing. Like, if you would ask me, like, 3 or 4 years ago, out of the big three, who I thought was the most pro-consumer, I would have easily said Nintendo. In my opinion, that would have been a no-brainer for me. But now I don't know. I can't agree with that at all. But I'm not bashing Nintendo. I'm just saying I think they are the least out of the big three at this point. And maybe some people will still say Microsoft. I know Microsoft's just going to get hate because they're Microsoft or whatever. It's crazy to think I don't know what it is, man. Like, people, when it comes to like multi-billion-dollar corporations, like, some of them just get hate because they are who they are. Like, Microsoft gets hate because they're Microsoft, or Apple gets hate because they're Apple and they overprice everything that they put out. But, like, Amazon's got God money too, and they don't get hate like that. You know what I mean? Like, they don't get hate like Microsoft or Apple get hate, but that's a completely different topic.
Yeah, I'm about to say, but Amazon has the appearance of saving you money. They get you your stuff faster. They're convenient. They stay home. There are things to why people look at Amazon in a positive light, depending on who you speak to or what part of the country you speak to them from. Because there are parts of this country where Amazon is just horrendous, and you talk to someone from those areas, and they're gonna talk. You're gonna seem like Amazon is the worst company in the world, up there with the Apples and the Microsofts. You know what I mean? But
let's I guess we can get into Microsoft with that. Okay. We may or may not spend the most time talking about Microsoft, but there's any number of things we could talk about and discuss. But people are in belief now with some recent comments from Phil Spencer, kind of going into what we were just talking about with IO Interactive and how Square handled the episodic release of that game. And Microsoft, in some ways, maybe hinted that they were possibly going that route, like the games as a service or more episodic type of content from some of their upcoming releases, whether that's exclusive or whatever. I think that's a little scary to think that they would even attempt something like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I guess it's kind of worked for stuff like The Division or, Rainbow Six Siege or something like that. But I don't know if Microsoft has the teams to really put out a game where it can be bought by, 6, 7, 8 million people and keep a good community for 6 months to a year and a half at the very least. So that's kind of, maybe scary is the wrong term. I don't know if I want to say it's scary. I guess it's maybe somewhat scary for if you're an Xbox only type of gamer. If you ride or die for Microsoft and Xbox like that would be worrisome to me. That there would be a games as a service, more episodic content upcoming, and maybe they'll be announcing some of that stuff at their upcoming E3 next month. But just your take on that real quick. Like, do you feel that's coming from Microsoft? Maybe not just Microsoft, but maybe something from Sony as well. You know what I think? Just real quick here as a side note, not just talking about the big three. I think we're gonna have at least 2, possibly 3 Overwatch clones announced, whether those are exclusive or from high level multi-platform AAA third parties or whatever. I think you're going to see a lot of Overwatch clones in the next 2 or 3 years, to be honest. But that's for a different topic. Just throwing that out there.
You always give me so much to unpack, right?
I know, man. That's what I do. I'm elaborate.
So I'm gonna start with your last thing on that you just said, right? Overwatch clones. Yeah, we've seen that before, where once something comes out and they write a blueprint, everybody else tries to jump on it. I.e., right now, the perfect example of that is the Dark Soul clone, where Lords of the Fallen, which got a bad rap, right? It's not that great of a game. It's not even that good of a Dark Souls clone. But I beat it on both Xbox and PlayStation, and I enjoyed playing it twice. Yo, Silver Sky, what up? So people do that. The reason I will not call Paladins an Overwatch clone is because they were in development at the same time. Right?
Yeah, you can't say that, I don't think. I mean, even though they are very similar, I don't think you can say it's
they're pretty much the same. Some of the characters, there's a lot of there's more similarities than differences to that. But they were in development along with the other one that flopped miserably from 2K with the chick with the spider arms. Oh, what was this one? I'll come back to that. I don't remember the name. But it came out almost as around the same time as Overwatch, and they were both AAA releases, and it was murdered. And I think Randy Pitchford was involved with it. I think it was a Gearbox game. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. What's the name of that damn game? It's driving me crazy, dude. Oh my god!
Anybody in the chat know it was supposed to be a MOBA and a single player? Battleborn.
Battleborn. Yeah, what a shit game.
Give that man a drink. Yes, Battleborn. So like those weren't their hero clone, their hero type shooters, right? But they weren't. They're not clones of Overwatch. They all had their own lane. But moving forward, yes. Okay. So now you want to talk about Microsoft and what Phil Spencer said about the games and services moving forward. You have to understand, when the man said that single player, in my opinion, it's not that the single player games don't make headway anymore. That's a lie. Like, he wasn't talking about to the gamer, because you see that the gamer ran out and bought Switch just for Zelda. You see that Horizon is one of the fastest new IPs to ever sell anywhere. What he was talking about is, from a business perspective, it doesn't generate a bunch of revenue. A lot of these games, you get your $40 to $60 initial investment in them. You might get $10 or $15 worth of DLC, and that's where the buck stops, literally, right? And then the revenue goes down increasingly because the price on the game drops. They're on sales, bundles, and everything else. Okay. So he's looking at like games you mentioned, The Division, Destiny, Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six, perfect. Let's start with there. The game came out, I put $59.99 on the game. A year later, I did that for all the characters. I paid $59 for the game. Then I paid extra to have all the characters available as they become available, or the whole suite there. A year later, I gave them another $30 for the second season. So right then and there, they've already made $80, $30. It's about $110 to $120. Cosmetics, if you buy any of those. Now there are people who bought the Super Mega Edition, Tickle Your Nuts Edition, paid $150. Then they paid another $60 for the next one. So you see how this money goes. Look at Destiny. If you bought Destiny piecemeal or at release, you're well over $200 now into Destiny. Not to mention that you started paying for dances. And so these things, they're lucrative to the people that are not. They're lucrative to the people that are releasing them, but from the people outside, they seem extremely lucrative. And so when you look at Phil Spencer now, they have no IP worth talking about right now at the moment. I mean, Halo is the only one, and they tried this with Halo. They tried the MOBA-esque approach, and I think it did well. Halo is still, for either lack of something else to play on the Xbox or whatever, it's still one of the go-to games on the Xbox, and it's always going to be. It's Halo, it's Microsoft, right? But they introduced that little MOBA-esque suite where you got your weapons, your microtransactions, you do all this. And so that makes him money. That makes the company money. And they're going to always want to do what brings the money. Not to mention, if you want to delve back deeper into Microsoft, they've never been one to be big with the single player IP. If you think about it, MechAssault, Halo 2, a lot of their games that first launched on the Xbox, because they launched the OG Xbox with Xbox Live came in January after the launch, I remember, which was the multiplayer portion. They've always had multiplayer attached to their games.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like, even if you think about like what was no doubt like their biggest new IP last generation, that was Gears. And yeah, it did have a story, and the campaigns were cool and all, but like those games were revolved around the multiplayer. Like that's what made them successful, and communities stuck around for a good amount of time. No doubt. No doubt about it.
Sea of Thieves is going to sell $2 million. Yo, Sea of Thieves sells $2 million, I'll pierce my left nipple.
Isn't Sea of Thieves going to be free, or am I wrong about that?
They don't even know what they're doing with that yet. They don't even know what they're doing with that yet. So I don't think he was attacking the single player thing, and I don't think he was talking about like single player games in general. Right?
I think you're right. I think people hear what they want to hear, so they're like, "Oh, he's attacking my Zelda or my Sony PlayStation exclusives just because it's Phil Spencer and he's from Xbox." But I agree. I don't think that's what he was doing. I do think he's kind of wrong. I'm not wrong, maybe not wrong, but I think he's slightly misinformed, especially for a man in his position. You would think he would.
Okay, why does everybody think he's misinformed? Can you break that down? I want to know where this misinformed thing is, because you're not the only person I heard say this. I want to try to get a.
Well, maybe it's just I'm confused when he says that those games come out and they do well and they review well, but they're not. They don't do the numbers that they used to, kind of thing, or whatever. Like that's sort of what he's getting at.
Well, I think maybe okay. I see what you're saying, but
he contradicted himself like all at the same time. But that's not where the money's at anymore. But you just said they come out and do well and review well. You know what I mean? Like, how does that make any sense?
When was the last time a single player game, like let's look at this legitly, or try to. What was the last single player game we know that went off and sold millions on top of millions?
GTA 5. I mean, yeah, it does have a multiplayer, but like people play GTA 5. or the single player, right? Like, isn't that one?
That's debatable in today's day.
I guess you're right. You know what? It is today in 2017. That is debatable. I'll give you that.
Do you know how much the shark cards and all that other shit are making them nowadays?
I know, it's crazy.
It's ridiculous. So it's like, speaking specifically from a monetary standpoint, if you look at it logistically, you just look at the numbers. Once the game has its initial sell-through, and once they can't charge you $65 for it anymore, the law of diminishing returns starts to take over, and the more the revenue that they see from that dwindles. In that regard only, I'm willing to look at what he said and go, okay, yeah. In the terms of what the games are gonna do for the person who buys it, for them, no, he's wrong, because people run out and buy these single player experiences. And yes, I don't know. Once I'm done with a game lately, because there's a plethora of games, and because I don't have the ability to sit down and wait, because I have to have instant gratification. So I have a backlog of over 60 titles. Yeah, once I beat a game nowadays, it's gone, right? But that's not the case for everybody. But in today's world, that's how it is. So what he's basically saying is, he wants a way to stay in the people's pocket.
People are bringing up some pretty good mentions in the chat. Like, Doom did really well. That's like a single player focused game. We were all kind of surprised by that. I think a lot of us probably thought that game was going to end up sucking. So Doom was awesome.
But did it make as much money as, say, a Rainbow Six Siege?
Probably not. But another good one, and even better one, was Fallout 4. It is now the best-selling Fallout, and that game did crazy numbers. I think it actually...
And I still think Rainbow Six probably generated more revenue. And if Rainbow Six didn't, and I'm sorry to cut you off,
you're fine,
I know Destiny did.
That's probably true. I'll give you that.
Okay, and so that's my point. He's not looking at that. Yeah, and those games, we need those games. And he even said this later on. He knows that those experiences are necessary, because not everybody wants to. I don't want to be nickel and dimes. Like, if I buy a hooker, I don't want to find out that she could do extra shit 50 minutes in and then try to charge me. Like, let me know what the whole package is up front, right? And then I can talk to you about it. Like, I don't want to find out later on I can get something else. Give me everything up front. But it's the nature of the business nowadays. It's the business model. It's how things get done.
We as consumers have to decide whether or not.
Yeah, and that's our fault. All of this is our fault. Because nobody's going to do to you. And I said this in Jay Barry's on the Gamers Who Play Games podcast. Shout out to those gentlemen. Sorry for going off left. Nobody's going to do to you what you don't allow them. And so the minute we bought horse armor or a tower to mix potions in back when Oblivion first came out, or every other truncated piece of DLC that we ever purchased, this is the end result of all this now. And he is someone who I think has a right to talk about what goes on in the industry, or whether, because he is one of the heads, whether people like it or not. He's one of the heads of this industry. People, well, who is he to say this? He runs one of the 3 major outlets of this industry. I think that gives him a right to say why and first of all, everybody has a right to an opinion, right? But I think, his opinion would hold some merit. They all want money. At the end of the day, nobody needs to be confused about the fact that they all want to make money.
At the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? Like, they don't give a shit about you. Like, it's what's in your wallet, what's in your bank account. Like, that's for them. That's the end goal. What you have in your pockets. So
how they can get it. What's the best way they can get to what's in your pocket?
I left a comment on someone's channel recently. I think it was he used to call himself PlayStation News Now, and at one point in the video he made a comment like, how did he put that? Microsoft and their ways. We'll just say that. I don't even know. I'm paraphrasing. And I said, listen, all of the big 3 have their own methods of attacking their market. Some kind of do it better than others as far as kind of looking out for the gamer. But at the end of the day, they're not really looking out for you. They're looking out for them, like whatever will benefit them. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, especially with Microsoft. Like, Microsoft is a company that they don't seem to really want to take a lot of chances, especially with their gaming, their Xbox division. So if something isn't selling, if something isn't working, it's done at Microsoft. Like, you are done. Like, we're not going to keep you around for very much longer. Whereas like Sony or Nintendo, they might give you another chance or two with this IP. They might even give you like 50 or 60 million more bucks and say, you know what, try your hand at a new IP or something. But at the end of the day, it's not looking out for the gamers. They're just hoping that this talented developer will be able to provide something that's going to make them money. You know what I mean? So Microsoft is just, I think they're a little more, I don't know how to, like, what would be the term for that? They're just, in a nutshell, like, they don't really take as many chances, and not even just as Sony as in Nintendo. Like, or even when you start thinking about some of the third-party AAA developers, Microsoft just doesn't take tons and tons of chances.
You know where their time for chances was? First of all, they had niche IP, Phantom Dust, back on the OG Xbox, right? They had that. They had Crimson Skies was another one. They had some niche titles on the OG Xbox. On the 360, when the 360 first came out, there was JRPG, there was arcade, there was a bunch of different things that they took chances on. Their fan base, as the time evolved over the years, their fan base told them, no, we don't want this. We don't want this. All we want to do is run around with guns and shoot people in the face. So at a certain point, the 360 became the I'm going to shoot you in the face machine. You had the Gears, the Halos, the CODs they had the marketing deal with. Almost any shooter found its way on to the 360. And so over the years, and then it started to dwindle even further. It was the Fable, Forza, Gears, Halo machine. And now it's just the Forza, Halo, Gears machine. And what they're going to do moving forward. So it's always been like that. But that's based upon the fan base. And they took chances this year. Like, I'm not trying to be like argumentative with you, but I'm going to point out to you Sunset Overdrive. I'm going to point out to you Recall. I'm going to point out to you, even though Recall was trash, Halo Wars 2. And none of those games sold none of them sold well. I'm tired, so I can't pronounce words all of a sudden. None of those games sold extremely well, right? They didn't knock the roof, but they took chances. And so when things stop making money for you, or you start losing money, my whole thing is that they don't cater to their fan base enough. Who in their right mind thinks, you know what, even though it says Halo, an RTS is the best thing to put on the Xbox One? Now, I played it, I beat it, right? I did that because I like RTSs. What happened? You
beat Halo Wars?
Halo Wars 2, yeah. I just beat it recently. Nice. I'm up to 12 games this year already.
Look at you. We got a real gamer here.
Oh, stop it. But thank you though. But yeah, like, I beat it. I also beat Dead Rising 4. And like, I play the exclusives now. The funny thing is that, you know, Microsoft has now turned into an exclusive machine for me. And so it doesn't have that, but they take chances. Sony was the one that was getting rid of companies that didn't live up to. They got rid of the Order Dev. They got rid of their driving game with that whole hysterical shit. They got rid of, and they all get rid of people. I don't think it's they don't want to take chances. I think at this juncture, you have to be smart with business. You know what I mean? Like, they can't bleed. Back in the days, they were passing out money like Atari did in the 80s. The big thing about Atari was they sniffed up all their revenue. They were having all kinds of, they were giving money to everybody, hooker parties in the office, and Atari went by the wayside, right? And Microsoft, under Matrix, was giving money to everybody. Look, they gave money to the No Man's Sky dev when their office flooded. And what did they get in return for that? Exclusive IP for Sony. So at the end of the day, you have to turn around, and the man is smart with what he does with his money.
That's true. That's true. Someone mentioned Sunset Overdrive in the chat. I think it's a damn shame that a game like that so much effort went into was not really bought by the.
That game is amazing and fun and different. and didn't belong on a Microsoft console in one bit. Like
Yeah.
I've been with Microsoft for over 14 years, 13, 14 years, right? I know what's gonna do well on their system just from a track record, because there's patterns of behavior, right? And they have to see it as well, but they're still taking the chances and hoping that they hit a home run with games like Halo Wars and so forth and so on.
You think we'll see another Sunset game? Think it's going to happen?
I would like there to be, whether it be, I don't think anything is going to be exclusive. I think exclusives that are not developed in-house anymore are going to go by the wayside. So I think moving forward, there's a very good chance that the only exclusives that you're going to get are going to be from each developer's first-party studio.
Yeah, shout out to anyone that bought fucking Sunset Overdrive and gave Insomniac some money, because they really needed it. Like, the Xbox fans were not helping them out with that game at all.
It's not up their bag. It's not in their bag. You know what I mean?
All right, so we're not going to move on from Microsoft, but just maybe touching a little more on their overall conference. I mean, we did talk a little bit before about Scorpio and what we're expecting from that, but we know that the price has to be right. We know that thing, it probably shouldn't exceed $400. I know some people say even $500 would be okay, but I don't think it should exceed $400. I think they're going to have a problem if it does. But that thing needs to show what they need to show what that thing is capable of at E3 without question. Like, they have to, I say this every year about Microsoft, they have to blow the doors off. They're not going to catch Sony or anything at this point. Like, that train, that bus, whatever, long past. Like, there's no way that's going to happen at this point. So really all they can do is show what they have down the pipeline. Like, this is, I mean, would you argue maybe in some ways this is their next generation system? Like,
I've been saying that since day one.
I didn't want to believe it, but like, I'm starting to feel like they're just not going to say it, but like, this is their next generation console, and they will, hopefully they will show that at E3. They will show that whatever 2 or 3 new IPs or whatever that they may have could not be done on any PlayStation system, on the original Xbox or the Xbox One S. They are going to show that. Hopefully they will show that, and you'll see that, yes, so in some way, in some secret, we're not going to actually come out and say it way, this is our next gen machine, and beat Sony to the punch on a next generation console. So I mean, outside of exclusive games that maybe no longer come to PC, like what can they do for you, Joey Luciano, that can make you run out and buy it day one, outside of the problem that you already have, just wanting to have things like the day they come out as it is? What can they do beyond that would maybe, like, you know, keep you from getting it or make you want to get it regardless of everything else?
Okay, well, my answer is going to go along with one of my predictions for E3, right? And I've said this multiple times by now. I fully believe they need their own IP on that machine. I don't want to see something that is going to run slightly better from the one to the Scorpio, because the thing about it is in between the One and the Scorpio, I have a very capable PC, extremely capable PC, and I have the PS4. So you're going to have to show me something that is going to make me go, okay, I can't get that anywhere else. And then you're going to have to make me believe that it's worth however much money that you're asking for this machine, right? That's what the smart, rational person says in front of me, right? The nut in me, the gaming enthusiast, the person that has to have every shiny piece of plastic, is just going to say, well, the day it drops, you're going to get it no matter what, right? That's basically how this works in my brain, right? But let's go back to your point where this is their next gen release, right? I have said this since day one. The specs don't even line up with current console standards, right? And here's the thing. As much as the Pro can do, It's always going to be truncated and stunted by the Vanilla 4. As much as the S can do, which is pretty much next to nothing. But the Scorpio, if you're going to come out with this machine, you're going to put all this time into R&D and all this other stuff, and you're going to have it stunted by a machine that y'all all know should have never been released this way. I think they'd be fools. I think they might want to give the perception that that's what they're trying to do, which is why, like, oh, every game is going to move forward and this, that, and the third. But let's be real. They've already set you up. Well, there's going to be Xbox One exclusives, and there's going to be PC, and there's going to be Scorpio. So it's already all set up for that, right? I really, truly believe that they need to, and they're going to, however they do it. Oh, God. However they go to do it, they're going to do it in a way where it doesn't put that much heat on them. All right, and I really
have they said? Let me. Do you know? Have they said? I know that they're saying that all current Xbox One games will be playable on. Scorpio,
well, that's supposedly what they said. That's what they said,
okay, but are they saying, or have they said that all Xbox One games in the future and all Scorpio games will be able to be, like, if you just buy one disc?
Yeah, they say it's supposed to be everything moves forward with you.
But are you buying? I mean, maybe for like the first year and a half or something. But I think at some point, like, developers are going to start pushing the Pro and the Scorpio to a point where, like, the PS4 and OG Xbox One can't even keep up. Like, I just don't.
Yeah, you would think, right? But look at what Sony's having to do with the Pro right now. Like, think about what Horizon could have been if it wasn't stunted as much as it was due to the vanilla. Right?
I'm thinking about what Uncharted 4, the Naughty Gods, could have done with that game.
Well, imagine if what they're gonna do with Talau, but they're not going to, right? So, and we all know that the developers are not gonna go, well, here's this version of the game, and here's, right? So at a certain point, yes, I believe you have to get away from this. Every game is gonna go everywhere. At a certain point, it's not going to, and then you have all the Xbox dudes who want to sit there and act like they're in business and they know what they're talking about, and they use certain things to justify one thing, and when they look wrong on that, well, then they turn it around and use it to justify it for another, and all this other stuff. And at a certain point, as sooner rather than later, there's going to be a game that's going to run on the Scorpio that is not going to be able to run on the Xbox One. And to me, I believe they will announce or allude or show something like that at E3. It might not be dropping this year. It might come out next year. Because look at Titanfall. Look at Titanfall and look at Black Ops compared to from the Xbox One to the 360. The 360 just got the multiplayer version. So they're going to probably start doing things like that, just cutting different suites off of the game, and you're still getting a very small truncated version. But I really believe this machine is a different beast. I think that they should do their best to separate from the Xbox One. The Xbox One, albeit it sold well in North America, right? But in the world is a failed console. It's a failed console. They're not giving you no IP. They aren't. They haven't given no IP since Halo Wars 2, and before that, it was back in December with Dead Rising 4. And y'all ain't buying the IP anyway. And it's following the same pattern that it followed in 2013, where they only released 3 or 4 games during the course of that year, save some arcade exclusives, and everything got pushed to the Xbox One. And you can see that a lot of those games were pushed to the Xbox One because of the quality at which they released on the Xbox One. Now, everybody wants to sit and act like they know better than everybody else, right? Or they sit down with Phil and they sit down with all these people when they make their decisions. So they're already going to tell you what it is and what it isn't, right? They just don't want, they want it to be that way for themselves. They don't want to see the writing on the wall. They want to take their ideas and their beliefs and spread it like it's the gospel of gaming.
I don't want to cut you off, but just real quick, I do in the chat said that console gamers don't care for power. That's why the Pro is the least sold version of the PS4 and the vanilla is the best selling. I mean, like, you could argue that. I could see that, but price is everything. I mean, like the vanilla PS4, on a sale or something will go for like $220 to $250, and then you can just go and buy one now for what is it, like $275, $300, and then the Pro is $100 more. $100 is, I mean, if we just look at the Xbox One versus the PS4 at the start of the generation, I mean, there were other factors there. I mean, people are like, this one is the most powerful console. It's less money. They're forcing this Connect thing that I don't even care about over here on me for $100 more, and it's less powerful. So, like, I don't know if I buy into all of the console gamers don't care about power. Maybe the majority. I guess I would agree with that. But there are millions, definitely millions of gamers that are they definitely give a damn about power when it comes.
I'm gonna say this to that. When just in the sheer numbers alone, the vanilla was out for 3 years before the Pro came out. So of course it's gonna be the best selling. No matter however you slice it, it's gonna be the best selling. Now, unless you have numbers that show the vanilla's outperforming the Pro since they were both released, since they've both been on the market at the same time, which I would love to see that. Like, and I'm not being a jerk because I don't think anybody's seen that numbers. I'm being honest. If you have those, please link that to me. I would love to look at those numbers because I've been interested in that myself. But when it comes to power, if gamers are not concerned, if these console gamers are not so concerned, why did all of a sudden Sony start overselling the Xbox? Why has the narrative always been that the Xbox One is the weaker console? Why has Sony all been screaming 1080 30 or 1080 60? If the power is for whatever reason has become a focal point for the console gamer.
Didn't Sony themselves say that they released the Pro because of PC gaming? Like,
pretty much, because they want to compete against PC gaming, which is what they said. So, oh my God, why are you in the comment section trying to talk shit, yo? You get I carry you in life, so if you have to carry me for half a round in a game, it's okay, Silver Sky. Okay? I'm sorry.
Silver's talking crap to you in the chat. I carry you in life. That's what really matters.
So, okay, I'll give you that. That's the fanboy argument, not the casual. I'm not a fanboy. The argument I'm making is this, right? It's out there somewhere. Now, whether or not people that goes into the store knows this, there's a perception of it. Because now even the ads, only console with 4K gaming and HDR. Only console with this. Only console with that. Played in 4K on this system. That, whether they know it or not, or whether you see it or not, that alludes to the power of the machine. Because what is making it do that? It's whatever's under the hood of the console. So, I mean, I'm not going to grasp at straws with you. I'm not going to say that everybody cares and it's the sole purpose for their being. I'm going to tell you that it's a reason. It's a legit reason why how people are buying these consoles these days. The same reason why PC gamers upgrade their graphics cards, because everybody wants to have more power. Not everybody. I'm sorry. The enthusiasts.
It's factual.
You know what I mean? The enthusiasts. People that are enthusiasts, they grade themselves on what their machines can do, on what their TVs can do, on what you know what I mean? It's all about that next level up. And that's what these console manufacturers are trying to buy into now. They're trying to get a hold of that. Every 6 months to a year, there's a new iPhone, there's a new Galaxy, there's a new this. It can do this just a little bit better than this one. It can do that just a little bit. NVIDIA's been doing this for years. Just look at the whole 10 series. Just look at the whole 10 series of GPUs and understand. There are people that have had the 1070, had the 1080, got the freaking. There is a need for people. There is a market that everybody's gonna buy the next exponentially powerful thing.
People can't. You know what kills me? And there's some very well-known YouTubers that have done this and said things like this, is that people will say that, oh, I don't care about power. I don't care about this. But then they'll have these discussions about power. They'll go out and buy the 4K TV for their upcoming Scorpio, or, to get the best out of their PS4 Pro, but you just said, you've been saying for years now that you didn't care about power. You didn't care about resolutions. You didn't care. Like, I've been saying this for the longest, and I'm going to say it again, and I'll probably say it 10,000 more times. People will say whatever they want to say to suit their argument at that time. But once they have it, once they experience it for themselves and they become spoiled on it, they're like, I don't know if I could play games without this. They don't know until they have it. That's the problem. Like when you eat shit for such a long time and then you have steak, a really good, well-cooked steak, it's different. It's a different experience. So just stop trying to BS me, man. I know I've been there. I used to say similar things like, I don't need that, or I don't need to upgrade, or I don't need this or that. It's different. It's just different, man. You can't fool me because like I said, I've been there. Moving into Sony, because I feel like we've said really all there is to say about Microsoft.
Do you have an E3 prediction for Microsoft?
I do think they'll have a couple of new IPs. I don't know if they'll be anything truly amazing. One will probably be some, high-level indie game or something that gets people really excited. It'll look really cool and have some, really nice art style or something. And then I think there'll be one or two like AAA games or something. Probably one of them will come from a very talented third party, and then they'll have one of their own. Probably Halo, right? Like we're due for a new Halo game. The last one was in 2015, right? Halo 5. So, but that wouldn't be a new IP. I do think they'll have at least 2 AAA, like big budget IPs ready to talk about and show for the Scorpio. But I don't know what those are. I don't know if they're going to have any like, oh, wow, surprises. We talked about before, like Scalebound possibly getting a revival, but you said, I think it was you that told me that really wouldn't like surprise you all that much. I don't know if that'll happen at this E3 or even sometime this year, but I can see it definitely happen next year or something. I think Scalebound will get revived at some point.
I can see it happening. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest.
You got any predictions? Anything special or
other
bad?
than there being some form of IP that is Scorpio, that is completely bound to the Scorpio? Not really. I think they're gonna show whatever IP. I know they're not gonna E3's for what's coming out next year or what's coming out moving in the couple of years forward, right? But I really think they have to announce something that's gonna come down the line, like before this year's over. Especially, we're gonna get a price on the Scorpio, definitely. We're gonna get an announced date on the Scorpio, definitely.
I think they're putting all their chips into Crackdown. Like maybe Crackdown is just something amazing, and since we haven't seen it for a while, that they're ready to like just show that thing off. Like, do you think that Crackdown has a chance at all to do at least somewhat well? Like maybe
I think there's a lot of revisionist history when it comes to the Xbox side of things, right? And I think that there's a lot of people who never played Crackdown that are now, they wear the M on their chest. And they're like, oh, Crackdown is this amazing thing. And no, the first Crackdown, the reason why it was a good game, yes, but it had something attached to it that you couldn't get anywhere else unless
Halo 3 beta.
Halo 3 beta, right? The second Crackdown was atrocious. But you know what I mean? There's this revisionist history where Crackdown is this beloved, and it's because Phil Spencer he's such a marketing genius. Phil Spencer made these X-Fags believe that Voodoo Vince and Phantom Dust are these great Xbox IPs that are revered and loved throughout the Xbox pantheon. And I promise you, I never had this conversation in my 14 years as an Xbox person, as an Xbox Live individual. I've never had the conversation that it's like, yo, Voodoo Vince and Phantom Dust are popping. If you're not playing that, you have an Xbox for no reason. I was never privy to any kind of conversation that ever took place. And so, again, they need to give you something new, fresh. They need to market to their fan base. And I'm sorry, I digress. Somebody
mentioned
Cuphead.
You know what? Okay, Cuphead's probably going to be really good. That game has an amazing art style. State of Decay 2. See, that one.
That's another revisionist game right there.
That's interesting. That is interesting for me because I'm one that's not completely tired of zombie games as long as they're they're done right. And the original game had some technical issues, but it had like the makings. It definitely had the parts to be a really good game. And if Microsoft threw AAA money at them to like make like a AAA type of experience for that, like that could be something special, because the developer definitely has talent. It's just executing. So hopefully,
you know
State of
what's
Decay 2
crazy
is
about
good.
State of Decay is that's another game that was an Xbox arcade game. It didn't garner so much fanfare until the boy that backstabbed his co-host recently. What's his name? Funny, he tried to be funny guy, Greg Miller. Until Greg Miller started talking about the re-release of it on the Xbox, when he started talking about it, then all of a sudden it started catching a bunch of media swirl, and all of a sudden it was this great game, this gem that everybody missed. But until then, it sat on the 360 pretty much unheralded.
That's true. That's true. It has its moments though. Like that game is not a bad game. There's just some technical issues that I think.
Well, yeah, I mean it's not a bad game, but what I'm trying to say, it's not this thing that they try to push on you. Like it doesn't have this, like the same thing with Voodoo Vince and Phantom Dust.
Voodoo Vince? What is that? I don't even know if I know what that is.
Voodoo Vince is a platformer. It's like a Bandicoot or Jack and Daxter or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Voodoo Vince.
Or Ratchet and Clank.
Hey man, it sits at very positive on Steam with 82 reviews.
Yo, I tell you, it's popping.
Oh my god! I don't know what this is. That's one of those games I'd get for like $2.50 or something.
It's one of those games I don't get unless they give it to me.
Yeah, one of those, right? One of those, like maybe included in a humble bundle that you already paid for, kind of.
And then you give the code away because you know better. I'm sorry. I digress, man. I apologize.
Okay, so moving on to Sony and what I'm expecting. I don't think we talked before. Some people might argue that it's not Microsoft's to lose because of all the Scorpio and exclusives thing and all that stuff, and Phil Spencer talking like he always does. But some people might say that it's Sony's to lose, and I could see that argument as well. But I think Sony's going to come out and do really well. Those that love Sony, it doesn't matter how well or bad Microsoft and Nintendo do, they'll always say that, Sony won anyway. But I think Sony's just going to do Sony. I think they're going to have some really good games to show. You're probably going to see a lot of stuff that we already know about in some gameplay from some of those titles, probably some Last of Us 2 gameplay, but someone mentioned to me that they don't expect Last of Us 2 gameplay until like the next PlayStation Experience event or something. So I guess that remains to be seen, but I think they'll show it at E3. We will definitely have gameplay for that, and I think the game releases between April and June of next year. And yeah, just beyond that, they'll probably have a couple of new IPs, indies, as well as a couple of AAA games, whether those are exclusive or whatnot. I don't know yet, but they'll have a couple of new IPs from third parties as well as their own studios. I think we're probably going to see what Sucker Punch has been doing. I think they're going to give them another chance or two before they decide, you know what, you guys, I don't know about your games. I don't know how well Infamous Second Son did, but I don't think
it did well enough.
I don't know if it blew the doors off like the.
But it did well enough to have a standalone DLC release.
That's true, and some people say that the standalone DLC was better. I still need to play the game.
It's very good. I wouldn't know. It wasn't a full game, so I wouldn't say it was better. Better is subjective, right? I always say that.
Yeah. Better is definitely a subjective word, but Sony's just gonna be Sony, man. Like they're just going to stick to their guns, kind of what they always do. Hopefully it's not super boring. Hopefully they're not late. Sony has a habit of like being 10 or 15 minutes late with their conference. But that's just Sony. If they weren't late, that would actually be more of a surprise than if they were late. But I expect to enjoy it. I expect to be bored at moments with all three of the big three. But I think it'll be good. I just don't expect Sony to do anything like super crazy. I don't think you're going to get like a, Final Fantasy VII, Shenmue type of moment where, people are super excited about games that they've looked for and wanted forever. But they'll do something nice, I think. I think it'll be good. What do you think?
I believe that Sony is on a roll right now. I believe, to an rational gamer, consumer. They started getting on this roll towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year with the IP. Their IP has been phenomenal. It's been out the box, hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. Where regardless, it's either critically acclaimed, fan acclaimed, and on some levels, both, right? And so they're just gonna continue that trend for me. And you have the games like if you just say Spider-Man, Bloodborne 2, those are just two games that are like, right? Then you have The Last of Us 2. Oh my Jesus. That's like having a chick with a big rack, fat ass, and a tight box. Like it's the complete package. And so it's only gonna get better. And I think that they don't even have to show new IP. They could only show IP that they got in the works that are gonna come out from now to the next E3 and moving forward, and they'll run away with the show. Like I expect to see The Last of Us. I expect to see Spider-Man. I expect to see God of War.
Gameplay from all three of those, right?
Yes, I want to see. There's gonna be more Days Gone gameplay. I want to see. There's gonna be just.
Are there release dates for all those games? That
everything. I think you'll get a release date for God of War and Days Gone. I don't know so much about. No, I don't think so much. I know The Last of Us. No, Spider-Man. Possibly, maybe, because there's that rumor that it's going to tie into the movie in some way, or it's going to be, you know what I mean? They'll show a little bit of the upcoming Uncharted DLC, which that alone has the chance to just take off like gangbusters, right? There's so much IP. It's almost unfair. When you look at us, not to bring them back up because we're talking about Sony, right? But when you take Microsoft and you look at, they're trying to launch a console, and they want to give you the message that all the truncated IP from the non-powerful, non-good system is going to be what you're playing on this, just a little shinier. So we're going to have you play shiny shit moving forward, and then you're going to get all this wonderful looking IP on this machine. It's not fair.
It would drive me crazy as an Xbox only gamer or a fanboy or like one of those maniacs that we sometimes see on YouTube to be one of those guys and think to myself, Microsoft has God money, and look at all the IPs that Sony and Nintendo have. You know what I mean? Like how, or even Activision or Ubisoft. You know what I mean? And those guys even have some stuff under their belt that probably some would argue needs to be revived. It needs to come back from like the 90s or early 2000s or whatever. They have all this stuff that they're not even using that they could use, and they're not doing it. And what does Microsoft have? You know what I mean? I think I don't remember if some of you guys may or may not remember.
Well, Microsoft has the BGST and Larry Herb and them. Telling you that they got good stuff coming in the back. You know?
Look,
Microsoft has fans. That's what they have. They have fanboys. That's what they fight. They don't fight with games. They fight with fanboys on Twitter and shit like that. That's what Microsoft has.
The Microsoft fans this generation are kind of like, it's almost the opposite happened. Like they swapped or something. The Sony fanboys of last generation have become like the Microsoft fanboys of this. They're more annoying. They're more obnoxious. And I don't want to bring sports into this. More obnoxious than Tom Brady dick riders and Patriots fans. I'm telling you. And that's serious business when we're talking about those guys, because those people are crazy. Like they'll chop your head off for saying a bad word about Tom Brady. So I don't get it. Like I said, if I was one of those guys, I'd be really disappointed when you look at Microsoft and say, man, you guys, you have all this money. Like, Phil, are you even trying, to convince these investors to give you more money to go out and buy some studios, to go out and buy some more talent? Like
he gave that whole real quick before I go down this. I want to shout out I Do Juegos. He added to the already plethora of IP. Detroit Becomes Human, Death Stranding, Wild, Gran Turismo. I'm not going to talk about Dreams. We don't even know what the hell Dreams is yet. Dreams looks like you need to pop some Molly to even try to play the game. I'm not fucking with Dreams. But like that's my point about that. But remember, Phil, when it comes to their IP, hands down, their IP is ridiculous. But remember what Phil said, though, D-pad now. So I gotta say your name and
you
then
can
pause.
just call me Icy.
I gotta say your name and pause every time I say your name, right? No, but Icy. If you look at he said he doesn't want to buy no more studios. And they don't want to do this. They want to give you IP. So they had the greatest IP lineup in Xbox history ever. Remember 2016?
Absolutely. I think it was 2015. 2015.
And that shit flopped. And so I mean, Tomb Raider did decent. Tomb Raider is a great game. And I bought it on all 3 platforms. Phenomenal game. But he can't do anything. He's not. When I fully believe that when Matrick was there, Matrick had full reign. Matrick had the say so and the purse that goes behind it, right? So there's that. I don't think Spencer has that. I don't think he has the purse. I think Nadalia keeps control of the pocket strings nowadays. And he could only do what Nadalia and them tell him he can do. And so he has to get his job is hard. Like, let's be real. I would not want his job. I would not want to have to go out here every day and try to come up with new ways. See, but the thing is this. He doesn't have to fool his fan base very much. He could say 3 words and they're all over it. They're gobbling it up, right? He's got
to convince guys like you and me. And
yeah, exactly. Because you can see there was people in here earlier. No, Xbox is going to take every game to the Scorpio. Daddy Phil said that they're leaving. No, you see? So they gobble that shit up right away. Like the minute the jizz drops, they're there with their mouths open. Like, give me more. Like, you don't, but he has to convince the community, the market, everybody else. And it's hard. It has to be hard.
I wouldn't want his job either. Go out there and damage control and backtrack on all this stuff I'm saying. Like,
I just don't, because even him, as masterful as he is, if you ever watch his interviews,
he's a good guy. He's likable.
He's not only that, he's a master of giving you an answer and not telling you nothing in the same breath. Right? And even him lately has had to walk back on some things because he either gave a little too much or whatever. So I don't envy that. But back to Sony. Sony is going to announce a price cut.
$250.
Yeah, $250. Sony's going to announce a price cut. Sony is going to $250. $250. I think they even bring the Pro down a little bit. Sony is going to not only do that, they are going to just murder you with IP. Sorry, I just got a message on Twitter and it blew my mind.
Well, Microsoft basically, like, they give them the opportunity to maybe do more than what was planned because they're going first, like always. So if they're like, this is the Scorpio price, Sony can either sit and do nothing. And, if the price is maybe too much and they're kind of laughing at that, like, what were they thinking? Or if it's competitive, they can be like, all right, like you said, $250 or maybe even $200 for the vanilla, and then $350 or $300 for the Pro.
Well, because they're gonna beat them in the head. You give them a price versus the IP that they already gonna have coming out. It's price cut. With that IP, it's about games. It's about games, people. Honestly, it's about games. And the better games and the more, I don't want to say better is always subjective. To me, the more appealing games are getting ready to drop on this system. And we've already had a plethora of good IP that has already come out.
Sony's doing it big in 2017. I'm not.
They are murdering it, and I hate to I don't subscribe to any fanboy theory, right?
Sure,
but I have an issue with Sony fanboys due to their arrogance. They act like every game sold, every console sold is $1 in their pocket. With the Xbox fans, I tend to feel sorry for them because you can't fix stupid. And they're just gone. They're just myopic and retarded, right? But I hate to just be like, oh yeah, your console's killing it, this, that, and but it kind of really is. And at the end of the day, as a gamer, I'm the one who's winning because I have options of nothing but great games to play. Like, it's not like in 2014, 2015, where I had to look at an indie title. Not that there's anything wrong with indie titles, but I had to look at some of these indie titles as my base source of entertainment. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Now I have legit AAA IP, a plethora of which I can play, and it's mainly on one system. It's kind of ridiculous.
So, any big surprises you think outside of like maybe some good price drops, like any big third party title or something that comes out of nowhere?
I'm gonna get laughed out the building again because
you're not gonna get laughed at.
I've always been they're gonna allude to a new iteration of a machine for 2018.
You think so? Like how Microsoft ended their show last year?
Yeah, I don't think that they personally are gonna allude to it, but I think, and I did the video and I was one of the first people to talk about this, and I've been saying this since the Scorpio came out. I do believe that if the Scorpio catches any headway, they're gonna answer with something. You know what I mean? And I think that you're gonna hear rumblings and you're gonna hear things that are gonna allude to this.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, usually. Yeah. So I agree. I could see that. Is that it? If we touched on predictions, speculation, some slight trash talk for all three, maybe. I mean, it should play on any platform except third-party games. Oh, you know what? Let's end it with this. Let's talk about this. Let's see what people in the chat think about this. And Rev and I were talking about this yesterday, and he can touch on it again the next time he does a podcast. But does console gaming, and I feel that it does. I've been saying that it does for the better part of a decade now. Does console gaming need a new player? An Apple, an Amazon, Samsung, like shake things up a bit, make it a little more interesting. Maybe we need a big 4 or 5 instead of a big 3. The big 3 sounds nice. It's got a better ring to it, like KG and Allen and Pierce. But I mean, does it need one more, 2 more, maybe? What do you think, Joey?
No.
No? You good on the big 3?
I'm not even good on the big 3. I'm tired of spending money, bro. Nah.
You know you could stop spending money.
Nah, I know. Here's the thing, right? Honestly, if I have to be honest, I would very much like there to be a Dreamcast 2. If I ever fanboyed in my life for any console ever, it was the Dreamcast and the Genesis. I had a Master System as well. I loved my Genesis, though. I loved my Genesis. Genesis does. Remember that? Genesis does. And the Dreamcast was so ahead of its time, but unfortunately, the people over at Sega couldn't remove their head from their anus to make that. And then with the whole Windows CE operating system, which was just so easily hackable, you know what I mean? So that system died, and it died a very early death. I would like to see Sega has IP too. Sega, you see a lot of these Atlas games that are on all these other systems that are doing well. A lot of those are owned by Sega, and Sega has its own IP. You know what I mean? I would like to see them come back. As far as Apple, I don't like Apple. I don't like their business practices. I don't think Amazon or anybody else could get into this gaming market and do it right. You look at the Ouya, you look at all this other junk that has flopped from before. It takes you got to be big. Look at Microsoft. They haven't really done well since they entered the gaming market, and they're still here based on sheer grit and determination, bro.
Yeah, it's just will at this point. Like, they're just trying to will their way.
And we have to thank God that they're here, because can you imagine a console gaming world only ran by Sony?
Yeah, because Nintendo's not competing with either one of those two. Like they're in completely different like planets, universe, whatever. Like not even in the same playing field.
So in that regard, it would be nice to see a third company come up and go up against them. But I think the only ones that could do it out of all the companies out now would have to be somebody with a track record and knows what they're doing. And to me, that's Sega. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, there's like, I'm personally, between PC and all these consoles, Switch and all this other shit, I'm spread thin already. So if they go back to giving you a reason as to why you own one over the other, because essentially right now these consoles are carbon copies of one another. One just runs games lesser than another and has a different name, because for the majority they get the same IP. And that's why I don't understand when Xbox dudes be like, well, I have the same game. No, when we say there's no games on Xbox, it's not that there's no games. You got to be an idiot to look and go into the store and see all those cases and go, oh, there's no games. No, there's no games that differentiate that machine from the other one. There's no games that make you want to buy this machine from the other one. There's no games that make you want to go, I need this right now. I can only play this here. And so I would like to see that. If that goes forward and they all go, okay, well, we're only going to do this, this, and this. If you want this type of thing, you have to go here, and let them compete that way and see which genres rise to the top, see what styles of game rise to the top, what kind of where the consumer money really is, and it's really an open and good, honest competition, then yeah, why not?
All right, well, that's a pretty fair answer. I would like it if there was someone else involved, just to kind of shake things up and see how well they could do. I know people really dislike Apple, and I'm not going to deny that they don't have shady business practices, probably more than most. Like, all companies have shady business practices, but you could point to Apple and say, I don't know how this company does so well. I don't know how they have all this money, because they do have a lot of shady business practices. But I think Apple could do well. I think Samsung could do well. And maybe if maybe your dreams could come true if Amazon was just like, hey, Sega, you want to make consoles again? We're going to buy you, and we're going to give you all the money you need to make that happen. All the R&D, anything you want, we can make you happy. We can give you access to that. I mean, I think that would be pretty cool. Amazon could really shake things up. I think maybe more than Apple and Samsung. I think it could get interesting, but that's just my opinion. Do we want to talk about, before we close it out, just one more thing.
Sure.
Bethesda's E3, what I'm expecting from that. I know it's not the big three. I know it's not the most interesting conference to talk about, but I would argue the one year they had Doom and Fallout and some of those other games, they probably won it for me just based on the showing alone. I'm hoping for the Evil Within 2. It does seem all but confirmed at this point. They had some job listings for that. And even though Todd Howard or someone from Bethesda mentioned something like, oh, I don't even know if the current hardware would allow us to make an Elder Scrolls 6, but the game is in development. But
wait, time out. He had with the graphics and the damaged product that they put forward every time, he has the nerve to say the hardware would not. I'm done with that, man.
Yeah. So, but he was saying that it was like the ideas that they have in place for Elder Scrolls 6 are so ambitious.
He can't talk about it. Kill something on a hardware first. Like, make it run brilliant. You know what? I can't.
I feel you. I know. I understand. Todd Howard is more and more like he is taking that name that He's becoming the new Randy Pitchford, yo. But he's a little less annoying though. Like
he's getting there though, right? You see how he's taking baby steps. He will be there eventually, I promise you.
But at the very least, whatever they're doing with Elder Scrolls, that's fine. I'll probably end up checking it out at some point, but Evil Within 2 is really all I want. If they just announce that, they can come out and let that be the first thing they announce, and I'll be like, all right, whatever else they have, I don't really care. I'll continue to watch, but they give me Evil Within 2, I'll be happy. And hopefully they have that running on the more updated engine that Doom is running on, because I think it's the 4th version of that engine or the 5th that the original game ran on. And it's not an ugly game, but it's not a very pretty game. I guess a game like Evil Within isn't really meant to be pretty, but I love the game. So I'm hoping for that. Hopefully, maybe like Microsoft or Sony, it won't be an exclusive, but maybe one of them can come out and be like, hey, guess what? Alien Isolation sequel on our stage or something like that would be awesome for me too. One of those two games or both of those.
You have to remember too that Bethesda is both a developer and a publishing house now at this juncture. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of things that they can push forward.
So, it was a good podcast. I really enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone that's here. Divide episode 7. Joey, thank you again. He is my co-host. And maybe next time, since we got a couple of people that make YouTube videos in the chat, we can get like Rev and a couple of others to come in.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that would be cool. Maybe Silver Sky, since he likes to talk junk in the chat. He can come in here and talk junk if he wants. Maybe Wolf or something. We'll see what happens.
You're all welcome.
So, man, you guys have been great. We appreciate it. And I need to get going anyway. So you guys have a good one.
Good night, everybody.
Peace.